Live. So I think we can start now. So hello everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar, which will give you an overview of measurement, analysis, and improvement according to ISO 9001. My name is Pereira da Cruz, and I'm an author at �11. I do quite a lot of ISO 9001 consulting and training. Still, as the lead auditor, I also conduct audits. So today I will share my thoughts on measurement, analysis, and improvement in accordance with ISO 9001-2015. My presentation will last about 40 minutes, followed by a 20-minute Q&A session. So if you have a question, you don't need to wait for the Q&A session. Feel free to ask it during my presentation by clicking the Q&A icon and submitting your question. Naturally, during the Q&A session, I'll also address your remaining inquiries. And if you click on the chat icon, you can download the PDF handout of this presentation and access links to articles that will be published during it, okay? And don't forget, later we will send you an email with a link to this webinar's recording and the list of articles mentioned, okay? Now, let's see. So if you ask, why is this presentation relevant? Okay, my answer is that we aim to ensure that measurement leads to action, avoids wasted data, and promotes genuine improvement in quality and performance. So this presentation will show you how to measure, analyze, and improve performance in an ISO 9001 QMS. So we developed this webinar for quality managers, process owners, and decision makers responsible for monitoring and improving performance. Okay, so let's see our agenda for today. So we'll begin by discussing the significance of measurement, followed by what exactly should be measured. Once we understand what to measure, we'll then address how to effectively plan those measurements. And after gathering data, the next step involves transforming raw data into meaningful information through analysis. Okay? Now, based on this evaluation, we must determine when and how to take action. Therefore, we'll explore when and how to improve. Then we'll discuss common barriers to corrective actions and improvement toward the end. And finally, we'll address the main challenges based on the questions received through email before this webinar. Okay, so this is the agenda for today. So, imagine an IT support team responsible for ensuring system uptime. So they assume everything is running smoothly because they only respond to major incidents. However, unnoticed system slowdowns and minor outages keep happening, frustrating users. Okay, eventually, what will happen is that a critical failure occurs, bringing down the entire system for hours. Well, upon investigation, they realized that early warning signs had been present all along, things like spiking server loads, increasing response times, and a growing backlog of unresolved tickets. But no one was measuring them consistently. So without proper measurement and monitoring, IT teams operate reactively instead of proactively. By the way, not just IT teams, any organization. So early detection through KPIs like system uptime, response time, server load, and unresolved tickets allows organizations to predict failures, improve service, and prevent costly downtime. So measurement provides visibility and control over quality, helps detect deviations before they turn into failures, prevents reactive management. You know, firefighting mode versus proactive action. Two different things, okay? So measuring performance isn't just about fixing problems, okay, when they happen. It's about determining and preventing issues before they escalate. So And remember, we measure because there is uncertainty. If there was no uncertainty, there would be no need for measurement. Okay. So why measurement matters? Now, what needs to be measured? Okay, Alfred asked, how do you choose the measurements to monitor and analyze? Well, Alfred, this slide provides or tries to provide an answer to your question. Okay, how do you choose the measurements to monitor and analyze? So what needs to be measured? So have you ever been in a meeting where people discuss dozens of metrics, but at the end, no one knows what really matters? Not all measurements drive quality or improvement. So what should we truly measure? So to make measurements meaningful, we can classify key metrics into 4 main categories. Okay, customer satisfaction. So how happy are our customers? Do they have complaints? Are we meeting their expectations? Another category can be process performance. So are our operations efficient? Do we have defects or bottlenecks? Another one could be supplier and external providers. So are our vendors delivering on time and with the right quality? And another category for product or service quality. Are we producing products or services that meet specifications and avoid rework? So just because something is measurable doesn't mean it should be measured, okay? So let's examine a few examples of selecting the right indicators. So imagine a call center that measures the number of calls per hour. Well, it sounds logical. Number of calls per hour, yeah. High numbers mean more productivity, right? But what if those calls aren't solving problems? Now, let's compare that to a call center that measures issue resolution on the first call, meaning how often the customer's problem is solved without requiring a follow-up. So, which of these truly improves customer experience? Okay, so the second one, of course, so it aligns with quality, efficiency, and customer satisfaction instead of just counting activities. Okay, so the right metric focus on the outcome, not just the activity. Although sometimes, okay, measuring activity is also relevant, can be relevant, for example, to evaluate if we need to improve capacity, for example. Now, let's look at an IT example. Okay, a software development team tracks the number of code lines written. Again, the more the better, right? But does writing more code mean better software? Not really. What if we instead measure the number of bugs found in production? Okay, this tells us how stable and reliable the software is for users. More lines of code could mean more complexity and more potential errors. So again, the question is, are we tracking output or are we tracking quality? So if a metric doesn't help us improve or make better decisions, it's probably the wrong one. So to summarize, measuring too much or the wrong things can lead to wasted effort and false confidence. So always ask, does this metric help us improve performance, customer satisfaction, or decision making? So once I was working with a company updating their dashboard and discussing what to measure and monitor. And one of the topics was, when you look to indicators, okay, to the KPIs, it's possible to judge that they choose the KPIs that help them perform well in front of top management, okay? But then they complain that they don't have the resources, and top management responds, but everything is fine, okay, with your department's performance. Why do you need more resources, okay? So now I leave here 2 links. By the way, 3 links. One is to an article called Practical Tips for Measuring Your QMS, according to ISO 9001, clause 9.1. Another one is called How to Write Good Quality Objectives, okay. And the third one is How to Define Key Performance Indicators for a QMS based on ISO 9001. Now, we have here a question. Edward asked, do all processes have to have a KPI or process measurement assigned? Calibration is a good example. Okay, so according to clause 4.4.1 of ISO 9001, every process included in the organization's quality management system must be monitored and measured, which implies that each one should have at least one performance indicator assigned, okay? The key question, considering your question, Edward, the key question is not whether calibration has a KPI, but whether calibration should be modeled as a standalone process in your QMS, okay? ISO 9001 allows flexibility in defining your process model, okay? And a process model, that means modeling your organization as a set of interacting and interrelated processes, must be a simplification of reality. Just like a map is not the same size as the territory, okay? So you must choose what to include in the model based on what's critical to achieving consistent output and customer satisfaction, okay? So good models are simple, never forget that. So if calibration is a supporting activity embedded within a broader process like equipment maintenance or production assurance, it may not need a separate KPI. Instead, its effectiveness can be monitored through indicators of the main process it supports, okay? What matters is that all processes in your model are controlled and contribute to the intended outcomes, okay? Then I will answer to your question later, okay, about acceptable forms of customer satisfaction, okay? Now, how to plan measurement. So imagine a factory producing automotive parts. The team decides to measure total parts produced per shift as their key performance indicator. After all, the more parts produced, the better, right? But soon, customer complaints increase and returns skyrocket. Why? Because they didn't measure defect rates or rework costs, just production volume. So measuring without proper planning can lead to the wrong priorities and unexpected failures, okay? So we often assume that measuring anything is better than measuring nothing, okay? However, poor measurement planning can waste time, lead to bad decisions, and result in missed improvement opportunities. So I would add also some kind of schizophrenic behavior, okay? Because you measure things that half of the customers say you're very good, half of the customers say you're very bad. So be careful. Okay, so before selecting metrics, consider the following questions. What is the real objective behind the measurement, the real purpose behind the measurement? We'll be responsible for collecting and analyzing the data. How will the data be used to make decisions? And is the measurement reliable and consistent? So let's see now the key elements of a measurement plan. So you define the right KPI, okay? Instead of just tracking total parts produced, you can measure first pass yield, so the percentage of defect-free parts produced the first time. You assign ownership, so the production team collects the data while quality control reviews it. You standardize the methodology, so use the same sampling method, time intervals, and defect classification to ensure consistent results. And this is really, really important. So using the same sampling method, the same time intervals, because without that, making comparisons, okay, it will be much more, will bring, will lead us to perhaps wrong conclusions, okay? And make sure it's actionable. So if the defect rate exceeds 2%, the corrective action process should automatically trigger. Now, planning measurement is not just about choosing a number to track. It's about selecting meaningful data that drives better decisions and real improvements. So before you measure anything, ask yourself, will this data help us improve or just create numbers on a dashboard? Okay? So I think I can argue that the most critical here is this standardized methodology, okay? So you will have a signal, raw KPI data, that needs to be processed to turn data into insight to deliver an output, a decision, an action. Again, I think I can argue that processing here is a core step. So discipline is required to collect data accurately. Good analysis is needed to extract meaningful patterns, and discussions ensure different perspectives validate insights, and decision-making translate data into real-world actions, okay? Now, let's see how the second part, so how to plan measurement. Normally we think about quality plans, okay? So let's see this kind of quality plan. So clause 9.1.1b and c are about monitoring and measuring methods and frequency. So methods are about being systematic and being comparable. So we don't want to start having doubts about whether the variation recorded is real or just a result of our way of measuring or monitoring. So for example, what is a complaint? Okay, so I worked for industrial companies, okay, as quality manager in the beginning of my professional life. And for me, a complaint was very simple, But then I started work as a consultant. And working as a consultant, I remember working with a company that was installing or in civil construction. And then what is a complaint? Okay, so when you build a house or install a system, what is a complaint? So if the customer makes an informal negative remark, is that a complaint? So, and we need to use the same scale to define what is a complaint and to count what is the number of complaints. Okay, so planning requires definition of what to measure. Okay, what are the indicators to follow? What is the measurement method? The data source, the measurement frequency. So the lower the frequency, the less feedback. The less the feedback, the less the opportunities for doing something to change course if needed. The target, so the difference between abnormal and normal performance. And I see so much weirdness tied to goal setting, okay? Some to make people look good, some to avoid issues with auditors, okay? So, for example, if you accept a terrible performance as the target, come on. So you conclude that there is no need to improve, but that's a sign that you have given up of trying to improve. And also, who is responsible for measuring and the review frequency? Okay. Now, Olivier linked to two articles. So, making the best out of ISO 9001 quality plan, and the other one is analysis of measuring and monitoring requirements in ISO 9001. So, then asks, what are acceptable forms of customer satisfaction, and how can I encourage feedback? Okay, the most common that I see are the surveys. Okay, companies send surveys, but the rate of response is not very high, and I don't think that most of the time they don't bring enough input to improve. Okay, because we don't work with perfect companies. We work with companies that have problems, and this is my opinion. I don't want to send a survey just to conclude, oh, we are so good. No, I think this is my opinion. We send surveys to find opportunities to improve from the point of view of the customer, because the customer sees the world in a different way than us. So surveys, meetings. Why don't, instead of a survey, why don't have a Zoom call, a Teams call with not every customer, but you can pick the most demanding customers, the target customers. You can have that. You can have you can look in the internet for their feedback. Okay. You can, so for example, if you work as I said, in a construction, so or installing software something like that. So you can ask opinion of those that you interacted with during the installation or during the construction. It's a way of doing that. Okay, but yeah. So many times I think organizations don't invest enough in their surveys. Okay, they prepare a survey and they just send a survey. Okay, done. Okay, but okay, I think we need to contact them. We need to ask them, and if we need to ask them to participate, why don't have a conversation? Okay. Now, Sorina asked, okay, how to demonstrate a good measurement in software development. Okay, so the first thing is that column about the indicator. Okay, define clear metrics. Okay, the second one is that column about measurement method. Implement a measurement process. Okay, document and standardize processes for collecting, analyzing, and reporting metrics. Okay, then regarding the data source and yeah, ensure traceability. So link measurements to project requirements and quality objectives. Validate and calibrate tools. Okay, because you want to be sure of what of the data that you are using, and then analyze and act on data and document the evidence and engage interested parties, like can be customers, suppliers, team members, in defining metrics and reviewing results to ensure relevance and transparency. Okay. Now, let's see here. Oops. Okay. What is the best frequency for analysis? Okay. Best frequency for analysis. So imagine a factory where machine breakdowns frequently occur. Okay, the maintenance team reviews downtime reports just once a month. Okay, by the time they notice a trend, production has already suffered major disruptions. Okay, in contrast, another factory monitors machine performance weekly and takes preventive measures before breakdown occur. So which one do you think has fewer stoppage and lower maintenance costs? Yeah, so the frequency will depend on some variables. Okay, so why does frequency of analysis matter? So not all data needs to be analyzed at the same frequency. The key is to match the review frequency with the impact of the issue. If something can cause significant damage, like safety failures or machine breakdowns, it should be analyzed frequently. So let's break this down into, let's say, 3 levels. So high impact areas, okay, real-time or daily monitoring, process performance, so weekly, monthly analysis. When we say weekly, monthly analysis, weekly can be done by a certain number of persons, a team, okay, and monthly can be by another team, and with different purposes, okay. And of course, strategic indicators, so like customer satisfaction, okay, quarterly or annually. So if an issue can cause serious problem, review it frequently. If it's a long-term trend, review it periodically, so with longer periods. So the critical processes mean or should mean high frequency analysis. Okay. Yeah. Now think about the key process in your organization. Are you analyzing it at the right frequency, or are you realizing problems too late? You see, when we are looking into these KPIs, okay, analyzing the KPIs, it's like we are driving the car, but we are not seeing what's coming. We are looking into the rear view mirror, and based on the information from the past, we are thinking about making decisions for the future. If the distance between 2 points, okay, 2 looks into the rear view mirror if the distance is very long, it will be dangerous, okay? Dangerous, driving dangerously. Yeah. Okay. Nicolaus is asking, are the decisions for frequency based on risk assessments? Yes, can be. Yeah, a risk assessment can be like that. Like in this example of the machine breakdown. So if the company looks into these machine breakdowns every week, okay, but if with time the trend shows that the number of breakdowns is coming down, so they can pass from 4 to, instead of every week, to every 2 weeks, eventually monthly. So yeah, it's a good point, Nicholas, that the link this to the risk. Okay, again, what I said, we measure because there is uncertainty, and uncertainty is linked to risk. Yeah. Now we collect the data, we analyze, and now what we need to we need to do the analysis of results. Okay, so it's here. So an overwhelming table of numbers. Okay, you see that in the slide, an overwhelming table of numbers, messy, small font, cluttered on one side, a simple, clear graph showing trends on the other side. Which one tells the story better? Yeah, looking at numbers without context is like trying to navigate in the dark, okay? Confusing and full of guesswork. Many organizations spend hours collecting data but fail to extract useful insights from it, okay? So, have you ever sat in a meeting where a huge table of numbers was presented and everyone was struggling to make sense of it? Then someone turns that data into a graph and suddenly the trend becomes obvious. Come on, that's the power of visualizing and analyzing data correctly. So collecting data is easy, but making sense of it is the real challenge. Okay, so if we don't analyze it properly, we risk making the wrong decisions. So data is just numbers. Analysis is about turning numbers into meaningful information. So imagine a company sees their defect rate is 5%. Is that good or bad? Well, it depends. Without context, the number is meaningless. Okay, so tables are precise, but graphs tell the story better. Okay, so if I show you a table with 12 months of data, you might spend minutes trying to figure out the pattern. But if I put the same data into a graph, you'll spot the trend in seconds. Okay, so I still remember graphing the average monthly particle size data that came out of our chemical reactor when I was working in a chemical industry company, and clearly seeing the influence of the average water temperature. So particles growing from the end of winter to summer, particles decreasing from the end of summer to winter. Okay. Now, comparing a single data point is misleading. You need trends over time. Okay. So if last month's defect rate was 4% and this month is 5%, should we panic? Well, not necessarily, okay? So if we look at the 12-month trend, we might see that fluctuations are normal, or we might spot a dangerous upward trend that needs urgent action. Therefore, okay, so we need kind of guidance to make interpretation, okay, of the graphs, okay? So therefore, I like to use and recommend SPC, statistical process control. And for example, for processes, for the KPIs, you can use statistical process control for individual values. With SPC, it's much better to interpret the signals that the processes sends us, okay? And I recommend studying Deming's funnel, okay? If you search in the internet, Deming's funnel, to understand the dangers of acting when we shouldn't, okay? So variability exists normally, but it can be normal or abnormal, and the SPC helps us distinguish one from the other. Okay. Another suggestion is simplify your dashboard with spark lines. Okay, you see here, these are the spark lines. So spark lines are your best friend. You can put a lot of KPIs in a single screen or in a single page. And one of the basic rules for good dashboards is that you must see everything in just one page. So if you need to go to another screen, to another page, something is lost, okay? I remember doing that, and I remember thinking that that was my problem, okay? But then I read in very good books about this topic that this is not my, well, it's not my problem. It is a human being's problem, okay? It's in our constitution. So think about that. Think about using this spark line. So Alexander asked how to present the measurement to upper management. Okay, so to present measurement to upper management, focus on what matters most, okay? Relevance, clarity, and strategic impact. So use high-level KPIs that are directly tied to business objectives and avoid technical jargon, okay? Summarize trends, variance, and risks using visual aids such as graphs or dashboards, okay? Highlight what the data reveals about performance. So they are many times they are not technical people, and they look into the numbers and they cannot interpret, or their interpretation is not so good. Okay, so highlight what the data reveals about performance, where improvements are needed, and what decisions or actions are recommended. Keep the message concise and action-oriented. Your goal is not to display all data, but to support decision-making with clear insights. Again, you can put all data in the annex, okay? But the most important part of your report, okay, it's for helping making decisions, providing context for making decisions, okay? Now, okay. Again, regarding analysis of results, let's see. Imagine two companies facing the same problem. Customer complaints are increasing. What happens with Team A? Oh, Team A shrugs it off. Oh, it's just a bad quarter, they say. They keep working as usual, assuming the problem will fix itself. But over the next few months, complaints keep arising, and soon customers start leaving, okay? Now, Team B takes a different approach. Instead of making assumptions, they look at trends over the past 12 months. They compare their performance, okay, with industry standards and set up root cause analysis. They discover that 80% of complaints come from a single recurring issue, which they quickly address, reducing complaints by 40% in the next quarter. So which team do you think survives the next year? So if you're only looking at last month's number, you're missing the big picture. Analyzing data over time, comparing it with goals and benchmarks, and using root cause analysis are the keys to making the right decisions. This mistake is more common than you think, okay? This of just looking into the present. So when you look to a dashboard with a lot of things like this, okay, this kind of image invites us to focus on the present, on the right now, okay? But if you look at the chart, okay, at a graph, you will see trend over time, okay? Now, I leave here a link to the article, How to Implement the Check Phase Performance Evaluation in the QMS according to ISO 9001, okay? Now, when to improve? So regarding clause 10.2, 10.3, okay, so this is tricky, okay, when to improve. Imagine driving a car. The full gauge shows low, but you think, okay, it's probably fine. I can get to destination. But so you ignore it until the car stops in the middle of the highway. Now you're stuck, okay? The signs were there, but you waited too long to take action. So this happens in business all the time. Problems appear, but because they're not urgent yet, companies delay improvements until it's too late. So the simple rule is every deviation is an opportunity to act, okay? But be aware, okay, of the Deming funnel trap, okay? Beware of immediate unplanned reactions to each minor deviation, because they usually amplify variation instead of reducing it. Okay, so use control charts to distinguish between normal process fluctuations and significant changes needing action. Always investigate special causes first, determine root causes, and then implement structured, informed solutions. So a company should decide to improve performance when facing situations such as, well, failure to meet established objectives or targets, okay? Negative trends or deterioration results over time. So if performance is consistently worsening, even if it still meets minimum targets, it becomes necessary to intervene before results become unacceptable, okay? Increase, or if you see increasing complaints or customer dissatisfaction, increase in internal or external nonconformity, so frequent errors, rework, or rejections indicate that the process is out of control and improvement is needed, okay? Or unfavorable benchmarking or comparison with external best practices. So for example, when working with public hospitals, for example, this is one of the tricks that I use, okay? Benchmarking with other hospitals that they consider that are good examples, okay? It's a way of showing that, okay, we need to improve on the need to reduce costs and or waste, okay? Now, when do we decide to improve? Okay, so you know the PDCA cycle, okay, the improvement cycle, okay, but do you know the SDCA cycle, the control cycle, or the daily cycle, let's say so? Let me tell you what is this. So we have a standard. So your company, you have a standard way of doing things. The standard may be written in a procedure, a SOP, or not, or just a practice that we have in the company. Okay, we have a standard way of doing things. We follow that standard way of doing things, and we check the results. Okay, and then based on this, we act. And if everything is okay, we continue within this cycle, okay, the control cycle. We don't need to change anything, okay? So what happens here is something like this. We may imagine a nonconformity happens. We do the correction. We treat the nonconformity and we check. Is this solved? No. Okay. Is this solved? Yes. Okay. Do we need to improve? And sometimes our answer may be, or yes, we need to improve. So we'll have an event-based improvement just because of that nonconformity. Okay, so this means that we can't live with current performance. Okay, so this means what? Means that when we were at the SDCA, our action was we need to improve. So we need to jump into the plan, do, check, act. So we need to plan, need to do an experiment, check the results, and act. And plan, do the experiment, check the results, and act. If we didn't improve, if the action was not effective, okay, we need to continue here. We need another plan, another experience, do the experience, check, act. And when it's effective, we jump into the control cycle. And what we do is we update the standard, okay? So when we decide here to improve because one nonconformity happens, this is clause 10.2, okay? This is clause 8.7. Now, even if you decide, even if you decide that we don't need to improve, okay, periodically you need to prepare a performance report, okay, clause 9.1.1. And now you look not to an event, a particular event, but you look into the set of results from a particular period, okay? And you ask again, do we need to improve? No. Okay, if we don't need to improve, the end. But if we need to improve, okay, now we'll have calendar-based improvement. Okay, so, and how do we improve? Let me see here. Oh, I need to, there's a link here that I would like to add for you to check, is complete guide to corrective action versus preventive action. Okay, and by the way, you'll find all documents that are relevant to this measurement, improvement, analysis in our ISO 9001 Premium Toolkit. Let me show you how it looks like. Okay, so this is the list of all the documents that we have in our Premium Documentation Toolkit for 9001, and I will show you this one, this procedure, and this corrective action record, and this procedure for management review and matrix of key performance indicators. Now, I see that I'm already out of time. Okay, so procedure for management of non-conformities and corrective actions. So you see this document, this is a Word document, so you can customize these completely. You'll see that we have here information, links to that can help you with any issue or with any topic that is relevant for this. Okay, yeah, we have this one here. This is mainly for the non-conformities, but let's see. Okay, implementation of corrective actions. Identifying, reviewing, analysis of non-conformity, defining the scope, containing actions, identify cause, design needs to initiate corrective action, planning corrective, implementing. So you have here a procedure to help you with the improvement, okay? Now, let's see the, okay, this one, okay, this one, appendix for matrix of key performance indicators, very similar to that quality plan that we had. So with the owner of the indicator, performance indicator, the target, the tolerance limit, okay, what is considered that band where it's okay, the frequency measurement, indicator value, record for monitoring, where do we record, okay, the result. And the same for, okay, let me show you here, this procedure for management review. So this is relevant because of this procedure, because management review, if we do it, for example, quarterly, it's very useful for this analysis, evaluation, and decisions regarding improvement, okay? So periodic management review, the inputs, okay? If we do it quarterly, we can split and distribute these inputs throughout the year. We don't need to see, so some will be we can see every management review, others we can see every 6 months or every year, annually, okay? So, and okay, we have, oh, I made a mistake here. So we have this corrective action record. So it's also part, this form, it's also part of the toolkit to help us develop the corrective actions, okay, the improvement actions, okay? So you can see the details of this toolkit here. So I leave here the link, okay? Oops, so it's here, all right. So now, how to improve, okay? So imagine a logistics company struggling with late deliveries, okay? Every week they rush to solve delays, so adding more drivers, changing schedules, but the problem keeps coming back, okay? Because they are not going to the root, they are just treating the symptoms, okay? So then they decide to analyze the root cause. Instead of treating just the symptoms, late deliveries, they dig deeper and find the real issue, poor route planning, okay? By implementing the PDCA cycle and root cause analysis, they reduce delays by 30% in just 6 months, okay? So what is the lesson? Small fixes don't lead to real improvement, okay? Fixing or correction is not improving, because a correction doesn't reduce the frequency of the problem occurring, okay? So small fixes don't lead to real improvement, structured problem solving, okay? Structured problem solving does lead to improvement, okay? So when you decide to improve, you embark on a journey. Step number 1, okay? You decide, we'll lead the project, explain the why, explain why we need to improve, okay, we show the pain, we show the potential benefits, okay? The improvement team should study the current situation, use tools like the Pareto charts, histograms, and flowcharts to see the challenge with different lenses. Set improvement targets, okay? The desired outcome and success metrics, okay? Later, we'll help evaluate the effectiveness of our actions, okay? Find the root, and try to be very specific and try to make things much more manageable, okay? Instead of we need to speed up deliveries, they're taking too long, so reduce the average delivery time from our warehouse to local customers from 4 days to 2 days within the next 90 days, something like this. Now, then we need to find the root cause or causes behind the challenge. Ask the 5 whys, okay? Use the fishbone diagram, check sheets, and look for correlations. Now, I leave here linked to 2 articles, how to use quality control tools to improve your QMS, and about the use of the 5 whys, check this article. So how to use root cause analysis to support corrective action in your QMS. Okay, now, step number 5. Now you know the root cause, okay, or root causes. Determine alternative countermeasures. Evaluate possible solutions and choose a solution. And plan implementation. We will do what, until when, what resources are needed. Then check implementation, so report results and evaluate effectiveness. And if okay, return to the SDCA cycle and standardize or modify the procedure or the SOP. So, okay. So Anna asked, we monitor and analyze through different KPIs, okay? That analysis will lead to discussions and actions for implementation. How to control the actions originated from all the different departments, quality, production, non-conformities, review management, risks and opportunities. So how to control the actions originated from all the different departments. Okay, so your system must assign clear ownership, deadlines, and follow-up responsibilities for each action, okay? Regardless of its origin, whether from KPIs, audits, non-conformities, risks, or management reviews, okay? Yeah, and use regular review meetings to verify progress, ensure accountability, and close the loop, okay? Yeah. Now, common barriers to improvement, okay? We measure, we analyze, we even propose corrective actions, yet things don't really improve. Sound familiar? Okay, let's talk about the common barriers that hold organizations back and how to overcome them. So, no real root cause analysis, okay? Solving symptoms instead of problems, okay? This is typical, okay? So, for example, in my checklist, when I'm doing audits, and when I'm looking into improvement or corrective actions, I put there a question to myself. Are they really developing corrective actions or just making corrections? Are they going after the root cause or just an epidemic, okay, very superficial action, okay? So no real root cause analysis, no accountability. So who owns the problem, who follows up? Lack of management commitment, so decisions are ignored or delayed. Data overload, so too much measurement, not enough action. The push mentality, so reacting to events instead of shaping the future, okay? So organizations with this push mentality are constantly reacting to problems as they arise. They wait for failures, for complaints or crises before taking action. Okay. Now, every analysis should lead to a defined action. Assign clear responsibilities and deadlines for corrective actions. Measure if improvements are actually working. Don't assume. Okay. And follow the pull mentality. So it's like being pulled by a desired future, okay? Instead of pushing into the future, instead of pushing into some future, no, we mentally go into the future, to a desired future, and we pull ourselves, we pull the company into that desired future, okay? And remember, so improvement isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about staying ahead, preventing failure, and making things better every day. Okay? Stop reacting, start anticipating. So use leading indicators instead of just tracking past failures. Okay? Now, Miriam asked, how can we promote a continual improvement culture in the organization? So think about leadership. Leadership must lead, okay, setting direction and supporting improvement initiatives. Set quality objectives, empower people, okay, build their competence, encourage ownership, monitor process performance to identify gaps and act on them. So use non-conformities as learning opportunities, not blame points, and drive innovation and change, okay? Make small experiments and sharing what works, okay? Whoa, really late. So really late, let's go to the main challenges. So according to the emails received before this webinar, choosing the right KPI. So it's one of the main challenges. So avoid measuring what's easy instead of what's meaningful. Many systems rely on indicators that look good on paper but fail to reflect the real drivers of performance or improvement opportunities. Turning data into action. So organizations often collect and analyze data but fail to link it to actual improvement initiatives. Controlling and following up actions across departments. So actions triggered by measurements are often not systematically tracked or closed, especially when multiple departments are involved. Something similar to what Anna was saying. And defining and applying relevant measurement methods, okay? So choosing and applying measurement methods that are technically valid, sector appropriate, and aligned with business goals is not always straightforward, okay? So the topic number one is about choosing the right things to measure, okay? The last one, defining and applying, is about measuring them the right way, okay? Now, let's go to the conclusion. So to conclude, measurement and analysis should be aided by proper tools to present the data and proper environment for evaluating the information. So analysis and evaluation only tell us if there is an opportunity to improve. They don't tell us what to change to improve. Improvement is when we go after the root cause. Improvement is of paramount importance. The context is always changing and interested parties become more and more demanding. And to make the whole process easier and faster, you can use �1100's ISO 9001 Premium Documentation Toolkit. So here's the link with more details, okay? And I'll also send you now the meeting link to schedule a call with our Toolkit expert. He'll explain you how Toolkit works and show you any document you'd like to see, okay? So here's the Toolkit expert meeting link. And now, very late, I'm coming to the Q&A. Okay, so first, let me tell you that there's a book that I wrote, published by �1100, that perhaps can help you. It's very practical, not much theory. So it's this one, Discover ISO 9001 through practical examples. I invite you to check our courses that you can enroll for free. You can check the videos, look through the videos completely free. So our 9001 Foundations course about the standard, the lead implementer course, the internal auditor course, and the lead auditor course. Okay, before we begin with the Q&A session, just to mention that you can also ask me anything about ISO 9001 directly. Just send me an email and I'll answer as quick as I can. If you have to leave before this Q&A session is over, please do fill in the short survey that will open right after you leave the webinar. Okay, let's see. So Neo asks, so calendar-based improvement is close enough to forecasting method So it's not forecasting. So you write a report about the past. You look into the trends. Okay, so it's not forecasting. It's looking into the trends. Okay, and that question: can we live with this kind of performance? And if the answer is yes, okay, we don't need to do nothing. But if our answer yes is no, we need to improve. We cannot continue like this. So then we go to the improvement. So it's not forecasting, okay, because it's something based in the past, based in the past performance. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 asks, what are the best KPIs that a software development organization would use? Oh, I don't have it right here, but the last webinar, I answered to that question. I will check that answer and I will send it to you, okay? And Jamil asks, what are those parameters that the quality control unit of the organization can be measuring in a fresh produced company? I never had experience with a fresh produced company, but look into things that can be, what is relevant for customer satisfaction, okay? And you can look into what makes for customers maybe may not accept your deliveries, for example, make complaints. So what is relevant for them can be delays, for example, can be what they consider if the product has quality or not. Now then about the efficiency of your process, about the performance of your vendors, your suppliers, okay? So it's like going, let me show you here, it's like translating into your company this, okay? Customer satisfaction, process performance, suppliers and external providers, product, service, quality, okay? Now, some more questions. We have here a question from Odette. Odette asked, what tools can be used to manage this activity? So to manage, so activities 9.1 clause. So you can use dashboards and KPI software to track and visualize performance. Okay, you can use statistical tools like control charts, Pareto analysis, trend graphs. You can use audit and non-conformities tracked systems because you also find there opportunities for improvement. Customer feedback tools like surveys, customer CRM methods for let's say subjective data, okay. Balance scorecards to link process performance with strategic objectives. That's another one. Now, Adelaide asked, any recommended measurement tools for hospital processes? Okay, so it could be clinical dashboards to monitor infection rates, readmission rates, average length of stay, mortality, patient satisfaction. In some situations, some organizations, maybe patient satisfaction, but also the insurance company satisfaction, the medical staff that sends the patients to that particular hospital. Audit checklist and incident reporting system to track compliance and non-conformities. So these are examples, okay? Now, Oleg asked, what evidence can be presented to the ISO auditor for improvement, okay? Types of KPI. So to satisfy an ISO 9001 auditor regarding improvement, we must provide a clear chain of evidence that you measure what matters, okay? So you measure KPIs aligned with objectives, you analyze results regularly, you decide, you make decisions, you act on findings, corrective actions, you track the effectiveness of those actions. So, and the evidence must be documented, current and traceable to show that continual improvement is a working reality, not just an intention. So As an auditor, I would like to see measurement data, evidence that frequency is respected. I would like to see graphs, statistical analysis, comparisons, evidence that analysis is done. So translate data into insights. I would like to see meeting minutes as an evidence of conclusions and decisions to act. I would like to see corrective action forms, 𝗂𝗶𝗲s or CAPAs, or improvement plans, or evidence action is planned and responsibilities distributed. Okay, I would like to, for the effectiveness of corrective action forms, CAPAs, meeting minutes, evidence if actions were implemented and effective. Okay. Yeah, one thing is, and by the way, one thing is just following these steps and get the outputs. Another different thing is getting the outcomes, the real improvement results. Okay, so I would like to see this: performance trends and KPI results show data over time that reflect improvements in key quality indicators. Okay. Now, another question is from Victor. Victor asked how to demonstrate the competence of workers. Okay, so I think I never presented a slide like this here in these webinars. Okay, so you measure competence by comparing the required profile with actual performance and documented evidence. Okay, so define required competence. It can be something like this for a production supervisor. For education, the requirement; for experience, the requirement; for technical knowledge, the requirement; the skills. Okay, and then so you define the required competence. Okay, and now you assess actual competence. Okay, so and you have there that score 4, 2, 4, 3, 4. So the person in a scale from 1 to 5, okay, as a score for understanding of manufacturing processes, as a 2 for familiarity with ISO 9001 requirements. And your company may say, we don't want any 2, okay? We don't 3 or more, okay? And so you assess actual performance. So you keep evidence, the records of these evaluations, okay, qualifications and training, okay, and now you address the gaps. So if gaps are identified, provide training, mentoring, or reassignment as necessary. And if you do this for every job in the company, or every job relevant for the QMS, you can have a number regarding how prepared is your people. Okay, and if you act like this, you see the training plan will not be the result of wishes, but will be something developed to close gaps in performance, in competence. Okay, so we'll provide training regarding ISO 9001 requirements because we want to go from 2 to 3. We provide training on problem solving and decision making because we want to go to 2 to 4, not just 3, but to 4, because this is a production supervisor. We want the production supervisor to help or to lead improvement teams. Okay, and training on QMS procedures and work instruction is a 3, but okay, we want a 4 because it's the production supervisor, must be at ease with this kind of documentation. Okay, and if we do this, and by the way, so next year, if you check again or evaluate again the current score, and we compare with the target score, you can evaluate the effectiveness of training. Okay, so it's a way of doing it. Now, Claudia asked, at what point during the audit does the auditor check these items? So clause 9.1. Okay, so this is like this. So as an auditor can check this in different occasions, can follow different philosophies. Okay, so the first one, top-down strategic alignment path. So maybe the focus is alignment of performance monitoring with quality objectives and strategic goals. So we are auditing top management, and you can start with clause 6.2. So Review defined quality objectives. Are they measurable, relevant, and monitored? We can ask top management how performance is reviewed. So, to check if they attend really, if they are really committed with, okay, look into the management review inputs, the dashboards. Then we can trace indicators to individual processes. Are which objective measured? Are there KPIs? And then we can check evidence of monitoring, charts, reports, meeting minutes, and then evaluate how results are analyzed and what improvement actions are triggered. So this one, auditing top management. But I can be auditing a process owner. So focus operational control and local process performance. So select a key process, okay? Sales, production, design, and interview the process owner. And I can ask what indicators they monitor, like lead time, defects, customer feedback. And then I can verify how data is collected and analyzed. Is it current, complete, and used? Okay. And I can review how results are communicated and acted upon. And I can check consistency across different processes, okay, and links to overall QMS indicators. And the last one, the last one here in these examples can be this evidence-driven, so investigating performance claims, trends, or non-conformities. So we can start from a reported issue, so a customer complaint or a poor KPI trend, ask how the organization detected the issue, so is the measurement system adequate, the review trend analysis or root cause data, how is that done, check if the measurement process is robust or if it's part of the problem, and evaluate whether results lead to corrective actions, okay, or an improvement, okay. Now, I have 2 more slides regarding questions that I received. Let me try to, Ferdinand asked, methods of measurement, okay. So here are several examples of methods of measurement, okay, relevant to clause 9.1. So we can have operational processes, and we have these examples, production yield, so percentage of products that meet specifications on first pass, scrap rate, machine downtime. We have these customer-related processes, human resource or competence, like, for example, training effectiveness, software development, defect density, cycle time, test coverage, procurement or supplier management, so on-time delivery, supplier non-conformities, and process performance and efficiency. Things like lead time, total time from order receipt to delivery, or process cycle efficiency, value-weighted time versus total cycle time, things like that, okay? Now, last slide, okay? Nuria asked, overall, in general, as an auditor, what should I look for? What and how to measure? So should I use subjective and objective measurements? What type of analysis should I document? Trends, stage rate data, records? How is performance if involved in this clause? How to capture improvement? What to improve? So, as an auditor, you should verify that the organization has determined what needs to be monitored and measured. Quality plan using both objective and subjective metrics, like the result of surveys from customers. So objective measures often include KPIs, process data, error rates, or delivery times. Subjective measures may include customer feedback, perception surveys, or employee engagement. Then check whether the metrics align with process performance and quality objectives. Yeah. The organization defines when and how to collect and analyze data, ensuring it's valid and reliable. So while comparing apples with apples and oranges with oranges. Trends over time are monitored, okay, not just single data points. This is very, very important, this one. Performance is evaluated through effectiveness and efficiency. Records demonstrate that data drives decisions and actions. So look for minutes of meetings, management review inputs, and improvement actions initiated based on analysis. And to evaluate improvement, look for closed loop feedback from measurement to action. Determine or determination of what to improve, okay, via non-conformity trends, risk-based thinking, or customer satisfaction analysis. And evidence, okay, that analysis leads to specific changes or project with measurable effects, okay? Dennis, yes, this PowerPoint will be shared. Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, so I think there's no more questions. So let's wrap this up. Okay, so I think I've covered all your questions. So let's wrap up the webinar. Okay, as I mentioned, this 1 hour webinar was intended to give you an overview of the ISO 9001 monitoring, measurement, analysis, and improvement. I hope I could give you some useful hints. Now, you can ask me anything about ISO 9001 directly by email. You can also download this presentation deck from our website or take a look at video tutorials and documentation templates. We'll send you the email with all the necessary links, okay? Finally, if you join this webinar through Zoom, you'll see a short survey. So I will kindly ask to you to spend a minute to fill it in, okay? The recording of this presentation will be available in a few hours. You will receive a link to the recording. If you join the webinar through LinkedIn and YouTube, you will receive a link to the short survey now, and the link to the presentation will be posted on our event page in a few minutes. That will be all. Thank you for your participation, and I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Have a nice day.